Hi, welcome to RAD TV. I'm Noah Detzer, your host, and I'm joined tonight by Emma and Lily. We're going to get into a little bit about their background and how involved they've been with RAD, but first I want to briefly recap what we've done over the course of the last month. Earlier on this month, we did the March for Our Future. Emma had a major role in planning that, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that and her experience there a little bit later. We've also been undertaking an endorsement process for several candidates who are running for various positions in Burlington. RAD is gearing up to finally actually give an endorsement to several different races, both city council and for school board. And so the voting is actually going to end on Sunday for that. So if you're a member of RAD and you haven't yet voted in the endorsement process, you should make sure to do that as soon as possible because some of these races are going to be hotly contested and the RAD endorsement is going to be a key factor in seeing how the races progress as we go forward. A few other things that we've been working on. The fight for $15 an hour minimum wage has continued, and especially now that the State House is now back in session, there's been a lot of progress made on that front, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. We've also been organizing team meetings, developing and continuing to work on the Burlington People's Platform, which you can be involved in if you'd like. Just reach out and contact RAD, and I'll give you that information in a moment. The other two things that we've been doing this month, the healthcare rally on January 23rd and Raise Up Vermont, which happened last night. Emma's been involved with both of those, and so in just a second, we're going to turn to her to hear an update about how those went. We've also been exploring the digital town halls, so we've been kind of working on getting our outreach up and speaking to people from around the state via these digital town halls. So again, lots going on, lots of ways to get involved, and if you're interested, and if at any point over the course of this broadcast, if you want to call and be a part of the discussion, please call 802-862-3966. Now we're going to turn to Emma and talk to her a little bit about her role in RAD thus far. Emma, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Noah.
This is your first time here?
This is my first time on RAD TV.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, you want to tell us a little bit about your background with RAD and how you got involved?
I began as a volunteer for Rights and Democracy. This is right around the time of the presidential election cycle. I had gone to the inauguration in Washington, D.C. in January and came back feeling the need to transition my work to something that was more grassroots-based and really wanted to get out there and do it. So kind of approached Rights and Democracy about their organizing positions, came on in a canvassing and outreach and regional organizing capacity and have continued in that role as a grassroots organizer. And by now, my time has been really split between that regional team structure as well as that full-on focus on the Raise the Wage campaign as we head into this legislative session.
Great, yeah. So as I mentioned at the top of the program, there were several different events that you've been involved in. If you wanted to give us a little bit of a recap about how those went and kind of your role there too, I think our viewers would like to hear it.
Yeah, so you mentioned the March for Our Future, which is the great way to start off the year. That was on the anniversary of the inauguration, and I had as much fun this year as I did the year before. Different kind of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The thing about the March for the Future is that it was entirely youth-led. It was a group of incredibly passionate kids that ranged from the age of 8 to 18 from all around the state, Rutland, Burlington, Winooski. And these folks had been planning this event for months. And it was really driven by this need to take back Inauguration Day and to lift up the voices of youth. And I was just kind of thrilled to be a part of it at that point and to kind of lend some of the organizational skills, the kind of like the muscle work, if you will, and really get those ideas off the ground. And we did amazing work with the Peace and Justice Center. Rachel Siegel was a huge part in making that happen as well, and Women's March of Vermont. And I want to give a shout out to Marie, who from Women's March of Vermont, who spent a lot of time supporting that work. And we had about 3,000 people come out, which is really exciting.
It's substantial, yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty substantial. It's a little terrifying at the moment. Definitely the largest rally that I've ever helped coordinate in Vermont. And we marched from City Hall in Montpelier around the corner down State Street to the State House. And it was pretty amazing to be standing up on stage and watch that crowd of people just file in and keep filing in. And then we had an hour of the most amazing speakers. A lot of the planning committee were the ones, and we had kids representing almost every issue you could think of because it's directly impacting them. And one thing I really learned with this event is that the youth are the most diverse group that we have in Vermont. There were folks from the trans community that were speaking, and children who had been impacted with race in their lives, and people who were born and bred in Vermont and had a vision for what it was like here and what they wanted to see here. So the range in speakers was really impressive and happened really organically, which I think was my favorite part of the whole event.
Yeah, that's excellent. What can you tell us about the healthcare rally and the Raise Up Vermont event?
Yeah, so big week in the State House. One was on Tuesday, the next was on Thursday. So if I'm a little tired, excuse me. So the healthcare rally, again, noticing that the really powerful partners that we have in the state, the Worker Center, which has been working on universal healthcare since, pre-2011 when universal healthcare was first passed. And it was amazing to see that community really come out and still stay really invested in this campaign. And we heard some of the most powerful personal stories that you can imagine about people suffering from lack of adequate health care. And the people listening did a good job. Not many questions, but I think there was almost 150 people in the well of the house by the time everyone was gathered.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Raise Up.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one after the other. That was just last night, and I still feel a little bit empowered, uplifted by it. Again, that great combination of personal storytelling with some really hard-hitting facts about what it's like to raise a minimum wage. We have a lot of national partners and a lot of examples from around the country that we can be following. So bringing that information and pairing it with the need to make the cost of living easier in Vermont was really impactful. And then just today, I got to sit in on that committee in their debrief of that. And if for anybody who's watching, you can go in the State House and sit in committees anytime you want. And if you want to do that with a RAD member, we can help you do that. Citizen lobbying is a tried and true hobby here in Vermont, and we want to be increasing that participation as much as possible. So when I was sitting in that committee, just they were referencing RAD member after RAD member, that guy that said that and that woman that said that, and it was a really stirring moment to realize just how much that had made an impact.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good to hear.
Thanks for asking.
I think at this point we're going to introduce our second guest,
Great.
Lily. If you want to talk a little bit about your involvement with RAD so far, how you started that, and what you're doing.
Well, the Raise Up campaign is what really got me, and it was just through an online petition, so I loved their accessibility, especially because I hadn't actually ever seen their office space. And so once I just was on their email list, I was like, every single thing that they're advocating for is so in alignment with my beliefs. And I'm actually in my final year at Champlain as an environmental policy major, and we need an internship to graduate. So out of all the places, I was definitely I was excited to have that opportunity, but when RAD was willing to take me on, I knew that there was not a different organization that I wanted to honestly dedicate my time to. So it really started with the Raise Up campaign, and I also had the opportunity to go and sit in on that. And as Emma said, it's really powerful to hear people's stories, and the fact that RAD actually, with the People's Platform, is empowering people to share their stories is something that I don't often see enough, honestly. And yeah, it's just been a really good experience so far, so I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
Are there any stories that have stuck with you that you'd want to share with our viewers that might give them a hint of kind of what you saw, what you experienced?
I mean, it was a really big mixed bag, because not one person really had the same narrative. It was just, it's all connected. Every issue is connected. So if you're struggling to feed yourself and nourish yourself and you're living in fear, well, of course, that stress is also going to come and kind of bite you and keep you down. So it's like just that vicious cycle was kind of like the common thread that we were all hearing. And now specifically with the raising the wage, what I really liked was I think almost 30 people gave stories, and a majority of them were, we really need this because I'm just barely surviving. And I actually come from a family where we also own a small business in Manhattan, but we've always paid a livable wage because, I mean, you need at least $15 just to get to work and to maybe have a meal. Like in the city, the cost of everything is so expensive. So I can personally relate to the fact that even though it hurts our bottom line, because our workers are happy and they really feel like our family, it's such a good environment to be in. So people were saying I'm afraid that I'll have to close my doors. And I was like, I can relate to this very personally and very deeply, but what everyone else was saying and what people from RAD were saying was well, we want to start a pledge for if this does get raised to 15, I can actually finally support local the way that my beliefs are, but I can't do that because I only have money to pay for my bills and my food. And yeah, I think the idea of raising up Vermont collectively, it's not just like a workers' movement, it's for all of us together. That inclusivity is something that I feel like is really important with activism today. So yeah,
absolutely.
It's good.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Just kind of going back to what we've said before, if anything that you're hearing makes you want to get involved, eager to understand kind of what you can do to further some of the issues or policies that are important to you, check out our website, radvt.org. Or you can head over to 241 North Winooski Avenue to actually see our location in person. And actually, I wanted to talk a little bit with Lily about kind of the new updates around the office, if you wanted to share a little bit about what you've been up to this last month.
Yeah, so I also do a lot of fair trade activism, and we've been excited. We're going to get some sponsorships for our office party on the 16th. So come to the new office. It's sharing in the same building with the Outright Center. So definitely invite all your friends. It's going to be good. And we'll have some performances, DJ Chia, so that's exciting. And we're thinking it'll be a potluck style, so if you have a dish that you really love and are excited about and want to share, bring it on. So yeah, that's on the 16th, and yeah, there'll be a Facebook event. You can invite more friends that way really easily, and yeah, just it's a good experience to kind of just come together, decompress, not so much focus on like the crazy political climate that is, just kind of, and I feel like back to the march for a second, that was what was a huge thing for me personally. I was tabling with RAD, and it's like, we know the facts, things are crazy right now, but at least we're all standing up and speaking out and here with each other, for each other. So I feel like that is something that, like, in the office party, that same kind of energy of just like, we're here for each other, like together we win. That's, you know, that's RAD. So.
Right. Well, and that's what's amazing too, is that when you're at these events with a lot of people, when you're in the process of kind of standing up, I mean, it's just, the energy is palpable, and it feels so exciting and so new. And so I went to DC for the Women's March last year, and it was just unreal. I mean, it was just an unreal situation, and being united with everybody, even in this moment when Donald Trump had been elected as president, which still even a year on sounds kind of crazy to say. But here we are. And so I think, but the part of it, I think that continued the hope and the optimism that I have even now is working with other people and kind of pursuing those policies, pursuing those agendas where we really can make a difference. It's just a question of getting people together and organizing. And so that's really what people, grassroots organizers like Emma and people who are involved in RAD in general are trying to do. Emma, I wanted to shift a little bit and talk maybe about your favorite project, the thing that you've done with RAD so far that you feel has mattered the most to you, that has kind of made the biggest impact.
One thing that's really unique about RAD in so many ways, and what attracted to me as an organization in the first place, is that it's a beautiful mess. I say it fondly. In many ways, RAD has embrace the idea that we really do need to do everything. So we have to blend the classic grassroots activism that we can draw lessons from the past with really high-level, people-driven lobbying work and legislative campaigns. And we also really need to go deep into our own communities. So one thing that we talk about at RAD is that we're not just multi-issue, we're multi-tactical. So we go really deep into those communities, and we go really broad across the state. So one of the things that I love the best is my work in the regions. And that's when I get to go and I ask people, what are you doing? Like, what do you want to do? And see what we can build powerfully together. So I'll go down to Bennington. We have a chapter down there that's 30 people strong, probably even more, and they share food and they put on events, and they do a lot of really focused work. In fact, when the time came to go down to DC to do civil disobedience, they were sending van loads of people down on a weekly basis. And that's the kind of energy that I want to bring to all of the chapters. And once we're really going really deep in our communities, that's when we can develop that statewide network. So the folks that are struggling with an issue up in St. Albans know that the same issue is happening in Bennington, and RAD can serve to connect that. On top of that, we can bring those issue campaigns, the ones that are really, really important, like raising the $15 minimum wage, and we can organize around that with the strength of the relationships we've built in the region. So I didn't answer it as one thing. It's all the things, because that's what makes RAD as powerful as it is.
Well, yeah, and I think it goes back to just this idea of relationships in general, of fostering those connections and engagement within each community, and basically so that you are reaching out and that things that matter, issues that matter, are often pretty universal. And so getting to know people who are either struggling with the same or are working to try to solve it in some capacity is really key. And that's kind of what we've tried to do here. Lily, so far when you've been with RAD, has there been a project or something that's felt really engaging to you or exciting kind of about politically kind of going forward?
Yeah, it's definitely the March for the Future, because as soon as I came on, that was, you know, what was happening soonest. But then also there's a lot of priority with the Raise Up campaign. So even it was funny, we were carpooling back home from the State House last night, and Emma gets some gas, and she's like, oh, I have to go get a Raise Up card, because I was just talking to the attendant there, and it's just, as she said, she loves to like go into places and really hear these people out in a way that like some people probably aren't asking them like, hey, what do you want to do? You know, like, what are your dreams? Like, how can we together support each other and maybe bring those to life? So I feel like it's just been really cool to be encouraged to talk to people in a way that is genuine and real and empowering. Because as you said, like, we all need each other to keep going. Like, it's not an easy time, but I kind of feel like this crisis is triggering this reconciliation right now, and it's a wake-up call and a call to action to a lot of folks. So I've seen a big shift on college campuses with people actually feeling like for the first time in their lives they actually want to engage with the system because it is so broken, and seeing it as a systemic issue, which is like a huge, you know, a lens that RADS takes. And some people don't see it as a systemic issue, which I think is a whole problem in and of itself.
Right. I mean, there's only so much that you can do to kind of attack the symptoms without kind of going to the source and figuring out what it actually is the root of the problem. There are systemic issues, and starting, you know, the approach of going after those and then moving forward will mitigate those symptoms and will do a large part in kind of solving the problem.
And I like that they're also a very much solutions-based platform. It's not just a big finger-pointing, mouth-foaming blame game, because I've seen a lot of that, and it's totally off-putting. So just the fact that they're already putting, you know, everyone together for the same common goal. It's really, for me, revitalizing to see as a young person that's, you know, studying environmental policy. Like, there actually are people that can have civil conversations the way, you know, right now the government is like shut down, kind of falling apart. So it's like, for me, it's like a big breath of fresh air to be working with Rights and Democracy.
Yeah. Just a reminder, if you hear anything in this conversation that you want to be a part of, or you feel drawn to kind of touch base with any of us, you can please feel free to call 802-862-3966 to be a part of the conversation. Right now I want to turn to Bonnie, who is also involved with RAD. She's interning this year, and I wanted to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about your background with RAD and how you got involved.
Oh, hi, I'm Bonnie. It's nice to meet you. Well, I remember last year going to a lot of the protests that came up after the office changed at the executive branch, and I saw RAD, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool. And I was thinking about where I wanted to be with my environmental studies, and that's what I study at school. And I knew I was like really loud and good at protesting. I was like, this feels really good. And I worked for VPIRG over the summer, and I was canvassing there, and I felt like I was really good at that. I really like talking to people and explaining, using, and like just like having conversation with the whole community about different policies that are going through our government, because like that's the best way to get out and get a lot of people's perspectives. And it was great because most people I talked to were really down with a lot of the progressive issues we were working on. Mm-hmm. But I wanted something grassroots. I wanted something more. And so I went to Rights and Democracy when I was trying to find my senior capstone. Mm-hmm. Emma and I kept connecting, and we had like intellectual sparks. We're like, oh, we're both totally geek out over the same stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, can I be your intern? And she said yes.
I was going to say, it'd be quite a feat if she said no and you were here anyway, just jumping right in.
I snuck in.
Yeah.
I actually would love to tell the story of when I first met Bonnie, because you canvassed me on Decatur Street.
Yes.
And I remember I ran upstairs to get cash to give you a donation, but really that was an excuse to get my business card. Because like you came to my door with Trip, I think his name was. Trey. And obviously you stuck out in that interaction. And you had that eye contact, you had that presence, you said your rap so well. And I went upstairs, I got like $3 like from under like a shoe.
$5. It was very
or something.
generous. She had already renewed her membership. That was really nice.
But really I was getting my business card. And the first time that Bonnie and I met up to kind of talk about what her involvement with RAD could be, the first thing that came out of her mouth was like, well, I've been really thinking about decolonization recently. And I was like, yes. Yes, okay, let's keep talking about that. And I'm really excited. Bonnie's going to be taking on a lot of our climate work, which has been one of the projects that is really important to RAD and has been really hard to focus on with the Raise the Wage campaign. And she's got great projects in store for her.
Yeah, speaking of climate, so it's great meeting. So I say biodiversity of personality, biodiversity of job skills and job interests. And so I meet a lot of people who care about the environment, and some are like, oh, I just want to be in trees all day. I'm like, you're going to be a great dendrologist or a conservationist. But I love nature, but it's really difficult to focus on conservation all the time if you're not also curbing like human impact. And a lot of our systems are not focusing on human impact. We're still on, like, we allow our market to be prioritized over whatever they want us to. So whatever the advertisement's telling us, whatever they make us be afraid and just like allow, instead of taking care of what people need and what are which is healthcare, access to higher education. Like, why would we not have that? Why would a government be incentivized to keep that away from people? And then clean air, clean water, and like healthy food that like doesn't make us sick. And so I'm really interested in like the human ecology, because we separate ourselves from it a lot in our structures. That doesn't mean we actually are separate from it. And so I'm interested in like taking advantage of like how good it is for us on like in terms of longevity, in terms of like a very holistic idea of health, like what it means to be cohesive and cooperative with environment.
Yeah, well, thanks for that introduction. What, so far with your work with RAD, do you feel like there's a specific project that you've worked on so far that you feel?
Well, we were tabling at the Women's March.
Yep.
That was great. My job with RAD is to work on the energy democracy campaign. Mm-hmm. It's really cool because who doesn't want to be in control of the energy that our lives rely on? So when we use renewable energy sources, it's being produced really close. And when best part about energy democracy is like we have to use it's cooperative. So like we produce it and then we share it with our community and we go and support each other. So like and then we can also like trade with energy lines and stuff depending on how your community chooses to set it up, because it's completely democratic. Mm-hmm. And they can choose where it goes and who wants it. And that way most people are happy because everyone should be able to have a say in there. And when people are like, oh no, but I don't want it in my backyard, that's like that you're going back into colonization again, right? Because then it's going to be in someone who doesn't have the same political power's backyard. And extraction's a really dirty industry, and a lot of people are getting sick from it.
Right. At this point, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about what you can do to get involved right now. So, as you may or may not know, on March 6th is the next election, the next citywide election. It's our town meeting day. So there's a lot of races that are going on. There's the mayoral race, there's several city council races, school board races as well. And so thus far, there are 3 candidates running for mayor. There's Infinite Goclesia, there is Karina Driscoll, and Murrow Weinberger is running for his 3rd term. Karina Driscoll received the RAD endorsement last month, which we spoke about a little bit on last month's program. As we mentioned at the start of the show, there are a lot of candidates vying for a RAD endorsement for races at the city council level. They're contested races in wards 3 and I believe 6, but there are people vying for that endorsement. So if you are a member of RAD and you haven't yet voted for that endorsement, go do it. There's also a lot of ways to get involved too. If you would like to get involved with a candidate who you feel is advocating for causes or things that you really believe in, it's really easy to do that. Just kind of look around. You can ask us at radvt.org, or if you'd like to ask one of us specifically, you certainly can do that as well. In any case, different candidates are going to need different levels of involvement. that's phone banking, canvassing, and even just sharing posts online all contributes towards a winning run. So if that's something that you are interested in or something that even sounds kind of interesting but you want more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to radvt.org or stop by our new office space that Lily helped set up at 241 North Winooski. At this point, I want to go and wrap up with any final thoughts, kind of closing sentences, ideas, things that we're going to be talking about, just to wrap up the show. Bonnie, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, definitely get involved with Rights and Democracy. Like as their names reflects, it's all about your rights and democracy. So any issues that you have or anything you want to voice to help guide us, we are looking to make sure that at every issue we come in contact with are also closing the wealth gap and making this a livable world for everyone. So like that's something really to be proud of, and I think that's something we can all really get behind.
I'm going to second everything that you just said, and just coming back to the fact that like your story really does matter, and you know, if you're not feeling like you have representation, to come to Rights and Democracy and get to know the network, because we all just keep building each other up. You know, Raise Up Vermont is the campaign, so just like if you are feeling isolated, like there's no need for that because people are showing up right now. So yeah, come through the doors on the 16th.
My last thought is about Bonnie and Lily. These interns hit the ground running. They understand that they're part of a bigger movement, and they've been incredibly patient with us as we try to get our heads on straight for the legislative session. And this is the future. I mean, this is like between the two of you, if you like combined into one person, you'd probably have like global domination that was like just and equitable.
Yes.
Within like 6 months, I'm pretty sure. So I really want to thank both of you for coming on the show, for being interns with Rights and Democracy, and hope that we can give back as much as you've been giving and are going to give.
Thank you.
Awesome. I think the closing thought that I want to end with is just talking about how interconnected all of these issues are, because there are issues that speak to each one of us. But at the end, it's important to remember that they are all interconnected, and that working to solve one means kind of beginning work across the board. I mean, it's really key to remember that it's part of a system and we need a systemic change. Once again, as I mentioned before, if you want to get involved but don't really know how, check out radvt.org. Come by the office, or if you want to get involved with a candidate, first research who's running in your ward. Look up what ward you're into if you don't quite know that information. Look up your voting place, and starting on, I think very soon, I'm not exactly sure, but there is early voting, absentee voting, and then we'll ultimately go into the voting on the day of March 6th for town meeting day. If you want to continue to stay involved with RAD, we can use monthly donations, always are appreciated. And it helps us grow, helps us reach out our network and make sure that we're more connected now than ever to anybody else who basically is in a position where they need our help and where we can do what we can to help them. It's important to be a part of the community and to do what you can to help make it better. For next month, we're looking to have some of the candidates who received the RAD endorsement on. So our February show, the last Friday, in February, starting live as always at 5:25. We're going to be talking to some of our candidates there, and we'll be looking towards how they might be able to reshape Burlington and what we can do as a group to make sure that their policies go into action. Okay, so again, that's next February. I think, Emma, unless there's anything else that I missed at the top, that's
I think that's
just
it.
about it.
You covered it well. Thanks so much, Noah.
Hey, anytime.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show. And thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the evening, and hopefully we'll see you back here in February, last Friday at 5:25, to talk with some of the candidates who are running for various positions in City Council, School Board, and of course the mayoral campaign as well. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on RAD TV.